Welcome back to Crypto Unlocked. I'm your host, Crypto Daryl. Every few weeks in crypto, you get a headline that feels like a line in the sand has been drawn. A moment that separates the old world from the new. This week, we didn't just get one of those moments. We got 5 of them back to back. Regulation, crime, institutional expansion, and global politics all collided at once. And if you read between the lines, the message is clear. The next phase of crypto isn't coming, it's already here. Let's start with the biggest theme running through all of it. Control versus adoption. On one side, you have governments and regulators trying to get a grip on the market that's growing faster than they can legislate it. On the other, you have billion-dollar companies and financial giants racing to build products, infrastructure, and on-ramps before the next wave of retail and institutional money arrives. And right in the middle where those two forces collide sits Bitcoin, the asset no one can censor, the network no one controls, and the symbol everyone is trying to either regulate or replicate. This week, the Financial Stability Board, the risk watchdog of the G20, dropped a blunt warning. There are still significant gaps in global crypto rules. They admitted what everyone in the industry already knows, that while the market has doubled in size, the regulatory framework remains fragmented and inconsistent. Some countries treat crypto as a security, others as a property, and some as a currency, and very few still pretend doesn't exist at all. But the fact is, the FSB, the group that oversees systemic risk for the entire economy, is now prioritizing global oversight, tells you we're no longer fighting for recognition, we're being audited by the same institutions that manage global finance, and ironically, that's bullish. Because regulation doesn't kill crypto, it legitimizes it. Every time a new rule book gets written, it brings more institutional capital off the sidelines. The next bull run won't just be driven by retail speculation, but it'll be backed by compliance, transparency, and full integration into the financial system. Then, almost in the same breath, the U.S. Department of Justice made headlines with the largest Bitcoin seizure in history. More than $14 billion in Bitcoin tied to an international fraud ring operating out of Cambodia. This wasn't a small-time scam. It was an industrial-scale criminal operation built around forced labor and the kind of pig-butchering investment schemes that have flooded social media for years. On one hand, it's horrifying to see that technology can be twisted into tools for exploitation. On the other, it proves exactly why law enforcement is finally getting serious about blockchain forensics. The DOJ didn't just stumble onto a wallet, they tracked the flow of Bitcoin across multiple addresses, exchanges, and mixers until they reached the final source. That type of traceability shatters the myth that crypto is just anonymous crime money. It's not. It's transparent, permanent, and easier to follow than cash if you know exactly how to read the chain. This case will become a benchmark for future prosecutions and is also a warning shot to scammers worldwide. Blockchain does not forget. While regulators were issuing warnings and prosecutors were seizing wallets, Kraken was expanding, not contracting. The exchange announced a $100 million acquisition of Small Exchange, a U.S. licensed future marketplace, to supercharge its derivative business. That's not just a business move, it's a statement. At a time when many American exchanges have struggled under regulatory pressure, Kraken is doubling down on U.S. markets, bringing in futures, options, and institutional grade products under one roof. It's the exact same playbook Coinbase used when it launched its derivatives arm earlier this year. Build compliant regulated domestic products before Wall Street fully wakes up. This shows that the next wave of competition in crypto isn't about meme coins or staking yields. It's about infrastructure. Whoever controls the futures, the custody, and the fiat gateways will also control the liquidity for the next decade. Then comes BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, making yet another chess move. They just announced a Bitcoin-linked fund for British investors, an ETP that will give both retail and institutions in the UK direct exposure to Bitcoin in a regulated wrapper. Think about what that means in 2020. The same traditional finance ecosystem that called Bitcoin a speculative bubble is now creating products to help their clients own it safely and legally. They're building the pipelines that will allow trillions in European and British wealth to flow into crypto assets without ever touching an exchange. That's how institutional adoption quietly scales, not through tweets, but through regulatory filings and fund launches. And while the West is integrating, China is tightening. Reports came out that several Chinese tech giants, including Ant Group and JD.com, have paused their stablecoin projects in Hong Kong after direct intervention from Beijing. That's a massive signal about how the Chinese government views digital currencies. They want blockchain, but they don't want decentralization. They'll allow innovation as long as it stays under state control. The pause of these stablecoins isn't a setback for crypto globally. It's just proof that decentralization still scares the most centralized governments on earth. Beijing's message is simple. Private companies won't issue money, only the state will. And that ironically strengthens the case for open networks like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and even Quant, because it highlights the core battle: free market digital assets versus state-controlled digital currencies. So step back and look at the whole picture. In a single week, the G20 admitted it can't keep up with crypto speed. The US just proved it can trace and seize billions in Bitcoin when it needs to. A top exchange just spent 9 figures to expand US derivatives and infrastructure. The biggest asset manager on the planet launched another Bitcoin fund for mainstream investors. And the world's second largest economy just tightened its grip on stablecoins. Every headline screams one thing: crypto is no longer a side project. It's a global economic pillar being negotiated, regulated, and weaponized by the biggest players on the planet. The narrative used to be crypto versus the world. Now it's the world reorganizing around crypto. And if you understand that, you understand where this is heading. Regulation brings legitimacy. Enforcement brings accountability. Corporate acquisitions bring maturity. Institutional funds bring capital. And authoritarian resistance brings validation for decentralized money. Each force, even when it looks like an opposition, is actually pushing crypto further into the global mainstream. From a trader's perspective, this kind of convergence is golden. It means we're no longer trading speculation, we're trading integration. Every policy, every decision, every new acquisition, every new ETF now has a real-world consequence on liquidity, volatility, and market structure. Bitcoin's next all-time high won't just be a chart milestone. It'll be a reflection of systemic adoption. Quant will benefit from interoperability demand as more financial systems connect to the blockchain. Solana will thrive as retail-facing applications explode, and even traditional stocks like Tesla, which sit at the intersection of technology and energy and AI, become part of the same global transformation. The digital and physical economies are merging, and crypto is the next connecting tissue to make it all possible. So while the headlines talk about crackdowns, smart investors see clarity. While the FSB warns of risks, institutions see opportunity. And while governments fight for control, innovation finds a way. This is exactly what early stage paradigm shifts look like: messy, chaotic, and unstoppable. Every crash, every seizure, every regulation simply pulls crypto deeper into the fabric of the global system until it's no longer an outsider. It is the system. The playbook doesn't change. Stay disciplined, accumulate assets with real fundamentals, and keep your emotions out of the noise. The ones who survive each regulatory cycle are the ones who understood adoption doesn't come from comfort. It comes from friction. And right now, that friction is telling you something loud and clear. The future is digital, decentralized, and already in motion. And as all of this plays out, regulation tightening, institutions scaling, and markets moving faster than ever, the biggest advantage you can have is where you trade. Because in times like this, execution, speed, liquidity, and security aren't optional, they're survival tools. That's why I use BTCC exchange. They have been around since 2011, which means they've survived every major bull run, every bear market, and every regulatory shift this industry has ever seen. When other platforms were going down, BTCC stayed standing, and that kind of consistency isn't just rare, it's priceless. Whether you're trading Bitcoin, Ethereum, XDC, or taking positions on the next wave of altcoins, BTCC gives you the kind of smooth execution and deep liquidity that institutions rely on. And here's the best part. When you sign up using my link in the description, you'll get 10% off of your trading fees permanently. That's more profit staying in your account and less going to an exchange. So if you're serious about trading through these global shifts where regulation meets opportunity and volatility becomes your edge, make sure you're using the platform built for it. Hit that link down below, claim that 10% discount, and start trading smarter with BTC Exchange, where trust, precision, and performance meet the future of crypto. Thank you guys so much for viewing, and I'll see you guys next week.